Good evening and welcome to Sex Addiction in the News, Facebook Live, Fridays at 5. I am Stacy Sprout, a licensed psychotherapist, a certified sex addiction therapist, and author of my own story of recovery called Naked in Public, a memoir of recovery from sex addiction and other temporary insanities. I am here with my co-host, my trusty co-host, Sparky Sprout, and we have a very special guest with us tonight, and her name is Katy Moore. And Katy, Katy is coming to us from Sydney, Australia, and therefore it is 10:30 a.m., not 5 p.m. Pacific, tomorrow there, or today, as the case may be for she. 10. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. 10. That's right. We met at 9:30. Okay. My time
So
changed.
confusing.
Thank you. So, what I want to say is, how did we meet? So, this is an experience of social media at its best, in my opinion, or some of the best, because and just the internet in general to connect people around issues that are important to them. So I have a Google alert for issues of the word female and sex and love addiction. And so Google will send me stories in the media that have the words sex addiction or sex and love addiction and women or woman in them. And so in my email inbox one day, there was a story by Katy Moore. And I devoured this story in 2 seconds flat. I have it here. Here she is. And it is her beautiful face. Oops. Wait, how does this camera go? It's her beautiful face. And she writes, and here's the headline to this article. Katy Moore reveals, it's from Whimn. Whimn.
Yeah, it actually means with her in mind network.
Ah, okay. That's what the letters stand for. That's excellent. Thank you. Okay. And it says, Katy Moore reveals what really goes on at a Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous meeting. So it's kind of an insider look. And I mean, of course, that's an interesting title, and like what really happens in those meetings. I'm sure many people are interested in the public if they've never been to one. But it was the first line that really got me. She writes, I was terrified and ashamed. And I think when I saw that, see, I'm going to cry. I really identified with that phrase, that sentence, as what really goes on in a Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous meeting, especially for women perhaps, is that when they go or try to go, they feel terrified and ashamed. And I thought, wow, already we have a story that is speaking into the heart of the experience of so many women. And it's gone global. You can see it across the world. So I instantly thought, I wonder if I could get her on my show. But I'm not sure that I had already asked you that or not when I saw the second story, or maybe you sent it to me.
The love addict, this the first love addiction one?
Nope. I found the first one, but the second one. You might have sent it to me.
Oh, that one, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So because of social media, I made a comment on her article and then your article, and then you wrote back to me, and then and then you sent me this second article, and I was like, wow, I have to get her on my show. So this second article says, I have borderline personality disorder. Here's what that means. And then you said, I've always had the niggling feeling something wasn't right, but nothing could have prepared me for this. And once again, just brave, bold, calling it out. And there is a huge correlation, you know, we know from research and as therapists, between sex addiction, love addiction, attachment disorders, as they can be referred to, borderline personality being one aspect, or traits. It's just so often all goes together. And so here's someone that is writing about it and talking about it and not afraid to expose yourself to potential all kinds of feedback. And we're going to get into that. But so this is how you and I met. And I am so grateful for you, for your advocacy and outreach, for being here with me today. And I know it means a lot to a lot of people who are watching right now or who will be watching the show. So thank you so much for being here. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself in your words?
Oh, God, where do I start? Okay, so I guess I started writing when I'm 40 now.
Oh.
I started writing, yeah.
Awesome.
I started writing when I was 20. And one of my first articles was actually on depression. And so I wrote my personal account of having depression. Oh, I've got so many disorders, we can just line them all up. Oh, what next? And I was picked up by a TV station morning show in Australia, and they said, we want this person to come on our show and talk about living with depression. So I went on the show. It was very nerve-wracking. It was a really big morning show. And I sat there with someone from one of the depression institutes. And yeah, I started telling my story. And I think that was the first time I really kind of outed myself in any way to anyone. And I got so much great feedback from that. People calling me, messaging me to say that I'd help them, that it really gave me, it just kind of planted the seed that this is what I need to be doing. Like, this is, I need to help. I just need to help people. Like, I want people to feel less alone. I think mental health, addictions, all of these things, we're so judged for these things. And God, so many people have something that's going on in their lives, and I don't understand how anybody can judge anybody else, because we really don't know what's going on. And a lot of people didn't know that I was suffering with depression, and even my family, it was a big thing for me to write this article, because a lot of my family didn't know, a lot of my family didn't know the actual incidents I was talking about. So it was pretty, back then as well, being so young, and it was pretty out there to do at that time. So yeah, that kind of gave me the first little jump into outing myself, so to speak. And then yeah, I've been writing ever since. I've been taking time off to do other jobs. I've been a nanny, I've been a makeup artist, I get bored quite easily, so I need these things to keep me going. And then I just keep falling back into writing, and I realized that what I really love to write about are personal things, of opinions, and my opinions. And times have changed since 20 years ago, when you had to write stock standard articles. Like now, I found there's much more opinion based articles out there, and people are willing to, you can say what you want now, which you couldn't back then. So I started, I think my first kind of real opinion article was about my boyfriend and I and our age gap, because I'm 40 and he's 25. So I talked about that. That was my first article, and then that kind of got published, and then I thought, oh, there's something in this. People actually care about kind of these opinion style articles. So yeah, that's kind of where I've gone with it. And with each article, I've just got a little bit braver, I think.
Well, you have gone into the arena of great courage and risk. So I appreciate hearing about that. It's your heart of service, where you saw, wow, this is really helping people, and it aligned with a calling in you. And 20 years old, that's extraordinary that you had it at that young of an age.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
But it makes me who I am, and I kind of feel now that I don't care. Like, I don't care what people think of me. Whatever they think of me, it's not my business. Like, For the lovely messages and comments, or people saying, oh, you helped me go to the doctor, or you helped me, I now totally understand what my feelings were. You know, those tiny little comments to me is just, they mean so much, and that is why I do what I do, and that's what keeps inspiring me to talk, because at the end of the day, that's the only way that people are going to understand, and you can educate other people. It's by talking and getting rid of this ridiculous stigma, and showing people, you know, basically I am, yes, I've got all these different things going on, but I'm still me, and I'm still the person that they know. I've not suddenly changed because they didn't know these things about me, and now that they're reading it in an article or a newspaper, I'm still the same person. I've just been dealing with other things underneath which they don't know about, and I think it's important that they know.
Yeah, I so respect that, and I want to say I relate to, well, many things you're saying, but one is how powerful it is to have support of people who take a second and just say thanks or good job or something like that. And I just want to say that one of our viewers said, I think you are brave. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you to Terry for your support. And it really does make a difference. I can attest to that. And I also relate to, you know, when I found some relief in recovery from sex and love addiction and my other addictions, a lot of it I had kept hidden, so people who knew me wouldn't have known that I had gone through that. But it was such a big part of my life, and I almost killed myself. I was that despairing, and so I had this thought, like, you know, you could look pretty good. You could sail off into the sunset and look pretty good at this point, and most people wouldn't know. But I just thought, you know, there's got to be more meaning to this than that. There has to be a way this can help people. So I truly appreciate that sentiment when I see it. And so this article, you know, you talk so openly, and I want to read a little bit from your article, if that's okay. 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 So in the beginning, you're talking about, you know, you're talking about your thoughts and the criticism that you were having or trying not to have, you know, like, I have to go to this Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous meeting. Wait, that's ridiculous. That's laughable. I mean, you're just like, sure, I have a few issues, you know, I relate to that, kind of the denial. It's like, oh, there's a few issues. It's not a big deal. And also some judgment toward the meeting, or, you know, like, I don't want to go there, and it's creepy, or and then you give a bit of background. And I just want to share this one, this one sentence, because I know that many women can relate to this. When would I learn that stalking, obsessive messaging, and even jetting to another country to get the guy was more psychological thriller or horror than fluffy rom-com?
Yeah.
So just as a fellow writer, I love that sentence. It just sparkles. But also, you know, we have this idea of what things are supposed to be like in these pictures and movies, and then there's what actually happens, and bridging that gap of denial is what I was hearing you doing and naming. And you said, this was my normal storyline, though. Yeah. I chased uncommitted guys. I got sidetracked, and you just go on to talk about what would happen in hope they would fall desperately in love with me, when all I really wanted was that closeness with someone, anyone.
Yeah. We can all relate to that. Nobody likes to be lonely.
Yeah, it's.
But yeah, that's exactly what it was, and I think, you know, I used sex to. I wouldn't necessarily class myself as a sex addict, because I'm not needing it all the time. I'm not using it in that way. I mean, I possibly could be. I don't know. But all I know is that I was, you know, getting myself into risky situations with risky people, with just but I only wanted that connection with someone. I didn't care about sex. I mean, there was a really sad moment where it hit me, actually, that I was in a bar and I was talking to this guy, and he was really nice and he's lovely, and you know, things are moving along, and then he's like, oh, can I come back to yours? And I literally said to him, yes, if you cuddle me. That's what I said to him. You can come home with me, but you have to cuddle me. So that was like the prerequisite. That was the trade-off. I'll give you sex. I don't care who you are, but you must like cuddle me all night. You must stay the night. You know, you can't just have sex and leave me. And looking back on that statement, that is such a sad thing for anyone to have to say to someone. I mean, that's really sad. And then you kind of think, well, why on earth would I want to be cuddled and be, because that's intimate, why would I want to be cuddled by a complete stranger? You know, so I was really desperate. You know, I was desperate to just cling on and have anyone just give me some intimacy, give me some touch, you know, just stroke my hair, stroke my back. Any form of that was what I was getting off on. You know, it wasn't, didn't care about the sex. I'd have, you know, it's kind of like I'm being a prostitute. Like I was kind of prostituting myself because I was giving, my payment was to have someone next to me. So no, I think that's sad.
Yeah, I feel sad hearing it, and I can relate to my own version of that, and I know that many women and men can. And I honor your courage and your openness, and this is how people talk in Sex and Love Addicts or Sex Addicts Anonymous or Sexaholics or the various sexual recovery fellowships. When they get really honest, they sit around and they tell truths about what's really going on, and sometimes it's pretty blunt and can even be shocking. But I also acknowledge, you're going, this is so sad, let's talk about it, and so people can become more aware and then perhaps make decisions. Is that the way, is that the best way to try to get my cuddle needs met? Or, you know, my emotional needs met. And I just want to say that someone wrote, you can't keep what you don't give away. Sharing my experience, strength, and hope is super important in my recovery. Share on, you are so brave.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you for whoever wrote that.
Yeah, yes, it's
Keep going.
you too. Yes. That's right. We can keep the recovery by giving it away. That so just helping people to be educated, like, well, and I could see someone watching this saying, well, you know, I've done that. You know, I've maybe traded some sex that maybe I wasn't so keen on having because I wanted to be with someone. I was lonely. I wanted to be cuddled, or but I'm not an addict, you know, like I'm not an addict, certainly not a sex addict. And I mean, it's a common definition that love addicts, their primary goal is seeking the love, or kind of classic love-based closeness behaviors of the relationship. And sex addicts typically are seeking the power, sexual pleasure, power. And so the intention, that is a common way of differentiating. Am I a love addict? What's my intent there? Or am I a sex addict? What's the intent? Although many people have both. But yeah, how did you know you were an addict? Like, what was it that, and I know I already read some, but what was it that took it over the edge of like kind of just crazy behavior and wild girl, or, you know, that kind of idea into saying, oh, go ahead.
I think after I broke up with my husband, that was really traumatic for me, and I felt really desperate and really alone. And I think that's when I jumped, you know, I had a period of mourning, and then I jumped into probably the worst relationship I could jump into with an actor here. And so he's high profile, and he was, you know, very vibrant and bouncy, and this guy was giving me attention. He can have any girl, he's on TV, he's, you know, in the papers, and he liked me. This just didn't make sense to me. So I think that kind of drew me in. And because I was needing that kind of some sort of validation after the breakup of my marriage, it was like, oh, I didn't need that guy. I didn't need that husband. Look at this guy. Honestly, he stopped traffic for me. I think it's written in one of my, I've just written an article in an Australian magazine called That's Life, another one on love and sex addiction. And they wrote about this particular incident with this guy where he actually did stop traffic. This was literally 2 days, like, of us seeing each other, I guess, getting to know each other. And I was driving to his house and I was following him in his car, and he just stopped at the lights on like 3 or 4 I think it was 3 lanes of traffic, and just stopped, got out of his car and ran down to my car, 4 cars behind him, and like leaned through the window and was just like, I couldn't go another minute without kissing you. Oh my God, that's just, I have this celebrity running down, stopping traffic, climbing through my window, and I'm, on a high. Like, that's amazing. Like, I hope everyone saw it. I feel so validated. I hope it's so amazing. And I think after that, and then his no response, and then responding, and then, always being nervous. I think it was really that relationship that really kind of caused me some high anxiety, looking at the papers. What did he do on Saturday? It tells you what these celebrities are getting up to, and why has he got his arm around that woman? And that constant I'm not enough feeling. I'm not in that world. That was really destructive for me. And when we finally finished it, I just remember that sheer pain of having my phone on me the whole time and literally glued to when's he going to text, those end parts. It was just awful. I felt sick. I felt like I couldn't go to work. I just would want to lie in bed all day. It was like a proper illness. I could feel it in my body. I could feel physical pain in my body. And I was like, this isn't right, this just isn't a normal thing to do, to feel. And then it just went, after that, it went, jumping to the next one, till I was all over the shop. I was getting worse and worse. I was, knowing where guys were, and I just like happened to be there just so they could see me and realize that, oh, I'm amazing, and that they needed to be with me, because they hadn't obviously realized that before on a one-night stand or something like that. I went to this guy's house. He was a one-night stand guy, and I went to his house, and I decided to, 2 days later, to turn up at his house and tell him that I'd lost my wallet. I think I've left it at your house. He's like, no, I don't think you have. No, I definitely have. We need to look for it. I was giving him the opportunity to suddenly realise that I was the love of his life, and he must have just forgotten to ask for my number on the one night stand. It's just ridiculous. So I was giving him the chance. Nothing was happening. Didn't find the wallet because it was in my handbag. Oh, so obviously it wasn't under his bed. And and I remember standing on his doorstep, just going, "Okay then, see ya. Come on, ask. No, nothing. Okay, see ya." And then I got in the car and I was like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? I've gone crazy. This isn't me. I've gone mad. I'm a normal, sane human being. And why am I doing these things? And it was just a lot of those kind of little incidences that I realized, talking to friends, that's not particularly healthy or right. And while they may have some similar feelings of wanting to do that, or getting obsessed with boys and messaging frantically back and forth, nobody really went to the extent that I did. So that's when I knew I'm kind of alone in this. And I'll stop talking. God, I'm just rabbit.
I love everything you're saying. So thank you for everything you're saying. And it's vulnerable and it's true, and you're sharing from the heart. And I think, again, women will see themselves in your story. They may not have done that exact thing, but they've felt that exact way. And that's, what I often say about sex and love addiction is, it's not so much about exactly what you do. It's more how you do it and how it affects you. And you're talking about physiological, feeling awful. You can't work. It affects you in terms of your job.
Yeah.
The self-esteem, the sense of I'm going crazy, your identity issues, but can't stop. Also, just oh, there's another one, and there's another one, and it's so it's those are the things that are universal about addiction. That whether it's other kinds of addictions or sex and love addiction. So these are the examples that people can hear and then say, oh, I'm kind of like her. I'm sort of like that, or that might be my story. And that's what helps so much to decrease the shame and decrease the stigma that we're talking about.
Exactly.
So, because you're looking, and we look at you. You're a beautiful person. You look kind and nice. You're smiling and happy. You mean there's hope. There's you can be there, and then you can turn things around. Like it's so exciting. And I want to say that not everyone. So someone just put a whole series of hearts and faces and fun. So you can't see the Facebook, but I can. So another heart. So there's support for you. I'm just wondering, not everybody has been so supportive. So you've written publicly, and you haven't always had people saying you are brave. So can you tell us a little bit about what it's been like to be trolled?
Okay. It was a very new thing for me. I've probably been a little bit naive. Things that I've written about before have always created conversation, which that's why I write. I don't care if someone disagrees with me. Like, I love it. Let's have a conversation about it. But there's disagreement, and then there's just being downright rude and disgusting. And I really didn't think that would happen with this piece, and I should have thought better about it. But I mean, I gave it to this one magazine, Whimn, because I trust in them, and I trust there's a it's a female-based site, kind of run by women for women, women's issues. So I feel safe talking about this with them, and I also wanted the title to be very specific, and I didn't want it to be how it ended up. So they listened to me, and they gave the title that I wanted, the one that you read out about what it's like to be in a meeting. That was the premise of the story. That was what they commissioned, basically. That's the line they wanted. So that was fine. And then suddenly it gets picked up by someone else, and it gets picked up by someone else, and suddenly it's gone to 45 publications worldwide. It's been translated into 4 or 5 different languages, and each time the title got worse. So it was, "Hi, my name's Katy, I'm a sex addict." Well, that wasn't what I agreed on. And then they'd find photos of me from Facebook, which were more provocative pictures, I guess, or more pictures from my personal pages of, me just going out on a night out with my friends, but, obviously doing it for a reason, what I'm wearing or the clothes. And I'm just like, what is going on? It kind of blew my mind, because it just happened so quickly, and because it gets published on another site, they all have Facebook pages. And here was my big no-no. Went onto the Facebook page, and this was just one of many, and just got hit with hundreds of comments. Comments like, "Send me her number, she needs to be cured," or tagging their mates, going, "No, mate, you should have been in her world." The worst thing, one of the worst things was someone saying, "Oh, next she'll be screaming #MeToo," and I just went, I literally was blown away. And then I thought, no, you know what? It's the title. Half of these people haven't even read the article. Half of them have just seen, "Hi, my name's Katy, I'm a sex addict." Most of them were men. There were a few women, which I was quite disappointed with, because I thought, wow. And a lot of them were saying things like, "Hi, my name's Katy, and I'm starved of attention, so I'm going to write a story." I'm just like, okay, these people don't know me. These people don't know me. Just look at the positive things in there. But I couldn't stop, and it was that addictive personality, I guess, of mine. And went on to another site, and there's just more of the same. So, you know, a lot of my friends got on board and kind of went for it with people. And it was really hard for me to sit back and see all that. And I basically had 2 weeks, I think, 2 weeks of just this constant abuse. And it was really hard. Like the first few days were really, really hard. And then after that, I kind of got a bit numb to it, and I was like, whatever. But then I got a friend, a so-called friend, who started posting things on my actual personal Facebook page about what a slut I was, how I'm known in the area as a slut, and blah 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 blah, and a drug addict, and this, that, and it was so abusive and horrible, and it got to a point where it was quite nasty, and then we had to involve the police, and it honestly just spun way out of control, and I just really couldn't believe it. So I could have taken one of two steps, I guess. I could have gone, oh God, I need to stop talking. I need to stop telling my stories. That, you know, actually it didn't make me think like that at all. It just made me want to talk even louder and go, you know, sorry, sucks to be you. You can say whatever you want about me, but if there was like 2 comments out of those 100 comments that were nice comments, I'm going to focus on them. I'm going to focus on how I've helped those people, and if, you know, it doesn't matter if it's just 2 people. I don't care. It's the other people I don't need to listen to them. That's the whole point.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing about that. I didn't know the full extent of that story. I only knew some of the abuse that you had, you know, that you had experienced online. But gosh, it's shocking. And you must have been so shocked, and I was. Have to go through your own grieving process about what was actually happening and was done to you, you know, not with your wishes or your blessing, in terms of how your information was sensationalized and sexualized and used to sell.
Yes.
And
I've not experienced that before ever. So it was all kind of happening, and I didn't know what my rights were. I went to the police. The police couldn't help me with certain things. I said, but these are threats. Some of the things are quite threatening.
Wow.
And I live by myself. I need some, you know, no, we can't help you till you actually get stalked or killed. Oh. Okay. Right. Yeah. You know, it's that, oh, what can I do to protect myself? I'm actually quite scared. Yeah. And it was quite worrying at that point.
Yeah, I could understand you feeling that way. I would have felt that way also. And that's, you know, cyberbullying and threats, and so that, and I also just so appreciate, you know, one of the things we talk about a lot in 12-step recovery from addiction is moving from the addiction into a place of looking at our character and developing our character, and then trying to act from our character. And so to me, what I'm witnessing is a story of a woman with strong character who is open enough to feel. You're not shut down. If you were still in your addiction, you'd been numb for it or whatever. You're feeling it, which is painful. And at the same time, you're trying to make a decision toward what your principle is, which is the principle of service that was always there and was abused and exploited. But you're just coming right back to your principle and saying, all right, I'm going to look for those 2 positive comments and focus on who I can be of help. And that is, so there's a comment that I want to read to you, because this is someone you know.
Oh, really?
Leah, is that?
Oh, yes.
You know Leah? She says, my beautiful, brave, strong bestie, you are inspiring. You inspire me. Even knowing you so personally hadn't prepared me for the bravery you displayed during this interview. I could not be more proud of you today.
Oh, God. Are you going to start me up? Thanks, Leah. She always does things like this.
Well, she loves you, and this is love. You know, like, sex and love addiction is about trying to escape pain or numb out and trying to get needs met. But recovery is about getting them met in a genuine way. And obviously your recovery is to the point that you have women friends who love you and can admire you. And so that's just a testimony to that's the payoff of all that hard work, is learning.
Yeah, she even came to a meeting with me to experience it, to see what it was like for me.
Wow, to support you?
Yeah, she goes, I want to know what you're going through. I want to see it, you know?
Oh.
So I'm very blessed to have people like that in my life.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, so the other article that you wrote actually ties into this as well, because, oh, there's a little heart. I wonder if that was from Leah. Because, you know, borderline personality disorder is an issue of attachment. It's a diagnosis based on incredible wounding, typically, incredible emotional sensitivity, almost supernatural sensitivity.
Yeah.
And typically betrayal experiences, repeated betrayal experiences, and all of that has a cost. It takes a toll, and it shows up later as symptoms. And sometimes the symptoms cluster into something that some people call borderline personality disorder. This article is super educational, which all your writing is that I've read so far. And so again, I just want to just read a little bit of the intro and ask you to expand a little bit for readers who might not know, what is this or why does it matter? So you say, I have borderline personality disorder. Here's what that means. If you ask the average person on the street to reel off the symptoms of depression, what are they? Chances are they could. Ask the same person what borderline personality disorder is, and my guess is the answer would fall into one of three categories. 1, never heard of it. 2, is that when you have multiple personalities? Or 3, oh my God, that's what crazy people have. And then in your classic, straightforward and humble way, you said, I admit I fell into all three categories. So you were diagnosed in 2016. And can you tell us, I mean, you said, I wasn't doing life successfully. Nothing made sense to me. I was frustrated by continual relationship problems, which of course ties into the other area. Annoyed by my hypersensitivity, confused about who I was, and sick of adjusting to people and places. So yeah, can you say any more about that?
Yeah, I guess for me, the borderline stuff made the depression just didn't feel right. When I got the depression diagnosis, it didn't feel that that was everything. That there was other things I was experiencing that just kind of didn't fit in with that. And then with the love addiction stuff, that kind of filled that void. And I was like, oh, so all those other things I'm feeling, that's the love addiction. And it wasn't until I started seeing a new therapist who does a lot with borderline stuff. He was like, okay, have you heard of borderline before? I'm like, no, maybe, I don't know. I think Angelina Jolie has that. Heard Princess Diana have that. No, not really sure. And yeah, we talked a lot about it, and I was just suddenly like, oh my God, yes, this is it.
You related.
Oh, I felt such relief. And a lot of people don't like, the labels, but I love a label. I really love a label. Not because it defines me, but just it gives me inner peace. You go, right, okay. And I don't act out like, oh, well, that's because I've got borderline, or that's because I'm a love addict. I am who I am, and then it just helps me go, okay, you're just experiencing this because you can't handle this section very well. I talk to myself in a different way, whereas I think a lot of people don't like the labels because, it's an excuse for your behaviour, which I don't see that. So, when I got the diagnosis, it was pretty scary, but it just made sense to me. And especially for me, I mean, there's a huge spectrum for borderline patients of what people experience. And I know a lot of people, some more extreme, some less extreme. I'd say I'm probably less extreme, but I suffer with, it's my abandonment issues, which are which tie into the love addiction, obviously. It's the abandonment. And friendship, it's not just, romantic relationships, it's friendships, which I really struggled with all my life. And, jealousy and, feeling very sensitive if someone doesn't text me back straight away, or they've gone to choose to do something with someone else. Why? What's wrong with me? And that anxiety over that, and the inability to regulate my emotions when it comes to that, I think that's kind of my core. That's where my borderline plays out. So I can be a hard friend to be around sometimes. I can be. I feel that sometimes people don't want to tell me their real truth because they're scared of how I'll react, or is she going to get upset or hurt because she's so sensitive, and I don't mean it like that. But my true friends know that about me, and they might say something, and then the next day go, oh, by the way, I don't want you to think that that's what I meant by such and such. I understand you probably feel abandoned by that sentence, but that's not what I meant. That makes me feel that they understand, but it also makes me feel sad that they feel that they have to explain themselves to me, and so I can go into a bit of shame about that, and feeling like I'm a bad friend, that I'm a hard work friend. And I've lost a few friends this year, like friendships of, which has been really, really traumatic for me. Other people may not have coped with it as I have, but it's been really, really sad and really hard, and it's taken me a long, I'm still not over some of those friendships I've lost. And I think that's the crux of my borderline, really, is the inability to just, I'm one extreme to another. I'm black, I'm white. Sometimes I can sit there and be very grey, but then sometimes I can just cut people off straight away. Go, right, now, done, on to the next thing. It's funny where it shows up with me, to be honest. It can happen in my romantic relationships. It can really be triggered by that. It's that push me, pull you thing. It's like with that book, I love you, I hate you, don't leave me.
Oh, yes.
I love that title.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. So many times I've got to such a state, I spiral in my head, and I'll just attack, like my partner, and I'll just attack. He goes into his shell, and because I'm not getting anything, I'll attack even more and say the most hurtful, awful, horrible things that don't go away, and then he'll go, okay, I'll go away. I'm like, no, come back. Come back. So it's this, I really hate you and I don't want to be near you right now, but if you leave me, I'm going to lose my mind and I don't know what I'll do. So that's hard. That's hard for any relationship, and it's hard probably for a 25-year-old to deal with. But that's kind of the crux of where I'm at with the borderline. It's those kind of areas of relationships.
Thank you for sharing so openly, and I'm sorry for the losses of your friends. I hear that that is very painful, and it hasn't been too long, so that is, fresh losses are at the I'm sad to hear you going through that. And I just want to say that Leah has a comment on that. She says, sorry, you're stuck with me.
Gosh, she's mouthy today, isn't she?
Oh, she has a little to say about her best friend. So yeah, I also relate to the experience of love addiction and kind of applying those principles to not just romantic relationships over and over, but also like in work relationships, not so much romantic love, but just kind of over attaching, or then being really detached, or just struggling with the distance or not, or having big reactions, or picking places at work where other people do that, so that I might have to experience that from them, or and I think it goes on so much more than people recognize. And I think a lot of the other kinds of addictions are to numb out or cover up because people can't deal with those feelings. And so just that's, it can be so difficult to be so raw, but sometimes that is what it's like to be sober. In a way, I'm not going to go have a drink and take the edge off, or you know, whatever. So I'll say that you have a bit of a fan club here on Facebook Live. There's a Sam who also says you're stuck with Sam and me, and Ingrid, me too.
Oh, that's nice. Ingrid's never on Facebook. Oh my God, this is monumental.
Wow. Well, this is a special
Ingrid,
occasion, Katy Moore. So again, something's working for you in your relationships. And I'm wondering if you can say about, you know, you've talked about the struggle of both love addiction specifically. You've talked about the struggle with the attachment piece and how to tolerate the distress that comes there and dealing with things, and how what's working for you. You talked about going to 12-step. You talked about going to therapy. What are some things that have helped you to navigate the struggles and feel better?
I think growing up.
Okay.
Age has got a lot to do with it. I've got more insight, and I've always been I'm the sort of person that if I feel something's wrong, I'm going to try and fix it. I'm going to try and work out what's wrong, and I'm not going to play the victim, and I'm not going to sit at home, you know, crying about it. I'll go to the library, I'll find a book, I'll go to a therapist, I'll go, oh, a love addiction meeting, okay, let's go try that one, that might be it, you know. I will try everything because I don't want to be, you know, stuck in the same patterns. And, you know, by no means am I well all the time, and I struggle all the time to be me and to feel okay as me, and I struggle to ask for help, and I just want to do stuff myself. I don't want to worry people. If I'm in a dark place, I just want to deal with it myself. You know, people say, why did you call me? Why didn't you text? I don't want to text you or call you. I don't want to worry anyone or burden anyone, because I just feel it's my own shit to deal with, you know. But you know, people said to me, well, what if it was the other way around and a friend was saying that to you, and they were saying, oh, I didn't want to call you because I don't want to burden you. I was like, I'd be so angry that there you go. You know?
Call me.
Yeah, you'd be taking that personally. So, yeah, I guess finding a therapist, the therapist I found is just phenomenal. I've had about 20 therapists in my life from the age of 18, and this one is the only one that's really got me, and he's just straight, and it's a guy, and he's straight down the line, and he's not there's no judgment, and there's no glossing over things. It's exactly what I need, and I can be very open and honest, and he's given me tools to, you know, when I'm in despair, or tells me when that behavior is not acceptable, you know, what you did, we need to focus on that, because that wasn't not good behavior, you know, so I don't get away with anything with him. So he's number one for my wellness. I think number two is confiding in friends and being more open with them about what I'm going through. Trying, you know, not to push people away because I'm scared. So opening up a bit more, and of course that's to do with my writing as well. You know, that has really helped me by getting feedback from strangers. It means I can talk about it more. Now I'm not as scared. Like with each article that I write, I get more and more confidence to do, you know, to write more things, to tackle other subjects, you know, whatever. So that's been, my writing's always been really therapeutic from when I was writing diaries at age 8, you know. Writing for me is therapy. And I think just what else do I do? Well, the 12 steps obviously really helped. Having a sponsor that I did was amazing, and I did so much work on myself, and that just more than even better than my therapist. You know, the work that I actually did on myself with me and the sponsor through that program was just phenomenal. I never would even imagine what I got out of it. I would never imagine that would have happened. It was like, you know, that light bulb moment, the constant light bulbs all the time blinding you. So 12 steps for me was savior. And as you said, you know, a lot of people didn't know that that's what I was going through. I was doing 5 meetings a week. You know, I was out every single night after work. And, you know, nobody knew what I was going through. I was doing it by myself and working through the steps by myself and putting the time and effort into that. So yeah, that was very beneficial. So yeah, I'd say those 3 things kind of helped me. But I've also, I mean, lately I've noticed that the love addiction is kind of coming back, so to speak. You know, I had a really good respite from it for a few years when I met my partner. And this is where I differ, because I realised that because I'm not feeling stable or secure in this relationship at the moment, I'm much more susceptible to those addictive feelings coming back, those obsessions coming back. So there's the texting, the constant texting, because we're physically apart at the moment too, from time to time. Where is he? What's he doing? Oh my God, like who's he with? Who's he having an affair with? Oh, he's left me, he's not coming back, he's blah, 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 blah. And I thought that had all gone away. I thought I dealt with that, but it's kind of quite refreshing to go, okay, here it is, you know, I can realise it, I can spot it straight away and go, okay, this is, you know, you're having some abandonment issues, and what's coming out is this, that and the other. And, you know, it got to such a state the other day that I worked myself up so bad that I couldn't get in contact with him, and he wasn't answering me, that I put myself into a panic attack and literally couldn't. I think I cried for about 6 hours, 7 hours. And my mum was just like, right, I can't, you know, nothing I can say is going to calm you down right now. So let's go to emergency, we'll go to hospital. And I was literally in the biggest distress I've ever been. I couldn't breathe. I can't even really remember what happened at hospital. I just remember being surrounded by people. I remember the noise people was just too much. I wanted quiet, and I was just flooded. And the mental health nurse was like, right, we need to calm you down first. Your distress level is just off the charts. You're not even thinking straight. I was saying crazy things, you know. Wow. And I just needed to relax and think straight. But, you know, I went home to my mum that night, and she looked after me and cuddled me and made me food in the morning that I didn't want to eat. And then, of course, as soon as I hear from him, it all lifted. That whole feeling I've just experienced in 24 hours was just like, I didn't even have the energy to be angry with him at that point, you know, or say, where was your phone? Why didn't you have it on? Where were you? I didn't have any of the energy to do any of that. That came the next day with my anger levels. But at that point, it was just that relief, that just, oh my God, he's run me back. He hasn't left me. And all your values and morals, kind of your needs go out the window, because I should have been, hang on a minute, you don't get to suddenly contact me when you're feeling like you want to contact me. I've been in distress for 24 hours. But, you know, my needs went out the window, because all my need was right then was that he needed to call me. He needed to call me, and he did. And then I was, cool, I'm done. I'm saved, you know. So I really have to keep an eye on that. I have to keep an eye on my mental health. I have to put that as a priority every day. So I have to get out of bed every day. And that's not a small feat. Sometimes it's really hard to do that. On a day like today, when it's blue skies, but it's freezing, it's great. I go for a walk, you know, that exercise, that gives me, I always start the day at the gym to give me some kind of, get the endorphins flowing. Endorphins? Are they endorphins? Is that right? Yeah. I start that way, and, you know, I try, you know, some days it's better, worse than others, but that's just life, and that's just the cards I've been dealt. So I just have to get on with it.
Wow. Thank you for that story. The image that comes to mind is just a tiny baby, you know, and just the cry of the baby. Like, if I'm going to die, if I don't get if I don't get my needs met, I'm going to die. And that just annihilation fear is life or death. And it's so real. And I just, again, I honor that this is part of the cycle of attachment and trying to heal while being sober and having raw stuff come up. And I love that your mom was there for you. I love that you went to the ER. I love that the nurse was kind to you and, you know, really said, hey, we got to get your nervous system regulated here. And I am amazed how hard it can be just one day in recovery. Some days just one day. I mean, that's why they say one day at a time, because there are times where I feel like just the fight for self-care is like the epic battle. Just stay sober, stay reaching out, stay asking for help, stay, you know, and so that, I mean, in a way, I feel like that story is it's such a terrifying ordeal that you went through. But I just know that, yeah, the recovery feelings that come up are as so extreme sometimes. And we just have to get help for them and just know that our little nervous systems are trying as well as they can to regulate. And yeah, that's the journey.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's what a lot of people don't realize about this. You know, number one, they might go, oh, I love addiction. What a joke. What a flimsy, fluffy thing for whatever. You know, they don't actually realize that it's so debilitating. It hurts your body, your mind. It stops you doing things. It occupies your mind. It makes you do things you never do before. It makes you manipulative. It can twist everything. It's not funny. It's not a fluffy thing to cover up something else because it's another label or blah 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 blah. It's a real thing, and it's, you know, as recent research says, you know, it's what's released when you're in an addictive episode. You know, trying to get the object of your affections or whatever. What's released is the dopamine and the oxytocin, and it's the same as when you want your drugs. When it is an addiction. It is physiologically an addiction.
Yes.
And that's what I want to get people out. I don't want the laugh, you know, to tell someone, oh yeah, I'm a love addict. And they go, laugh. I want to cut that laugh out because that's not funny. And I won't stand for it. And they can say the same thing about sex addiction and whatever. You can think whatever you like, but you want to talk about it and talk real with me, I'll sit down and I'll talk to you about my experiences. Not everyone's experiences, mine, and that it is real. And I think it's really important to be recognised, as is mental health. It's really important to me for people to ask questions and understand and try and understand.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to acknowledge we're having a little technical with just the internet connecting. So sometimes the picture goes small and then sometimes it goes big, and it's okay because we can hear you and still see you. Okay. And yeah, cool. So I admire your conviction and just that saying no, like we can say no, like, no, that's not okay. And we can also say no, like KNOW. I know this. I know this. So I know this, and I'm not going to allow this to be ridiculed and minimized. No. And because it does almost kill people, and it does kill people, and it's debilitating, and it's so destructive. And I'll tell you, you know, the International Classification of Diseases is a manual global to address diseases, and they have put out their draft, which includes a diagnosis, compulsive sexual behavior disorder. And so that is progress in the field of sex and love addiction treatment. But I wrote to them and I said, you know, almost twice as many women will self-identify as love addicts than as sex addicts. And we need a diagnosis of compulsive relational behavioral disorder. That is the female informed correlate. And there are women who fit the classic sex addiction model, and it's harder for men who are love addicts. They have a harder time admitting it because it can feel emasculating to be a love addict, and for women it can be stigmatizing to be a sex addict. So there's crossover on both sides, but I just want to stand with you in your call for awareness about how serious this is. And I want to make an appeal to the ICD-11 and all those who are working on medical diagnoses to look at women and look at love addiction or the compulsive relational behavior disorder as valid. And so I'm hopeful, that we can just keep raising awareness about that so that we can look at it from a medical perspective and get people the treatment and care that they need.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah. Well, we have reached our hour mark, which means it's probably almost time to roll into concluding.
Sure.
Before I go into more gratitude for you, I'm wondering if you have anything else that you would want to say, maybe to someone watching this who is, I think you've said a lot to inspire people, but just maybe someone who's new and feeling scared. What might you say to them?
I'd say don't be. I'd say contact me if you need to. And I'd say I'm always, I'm open to, I'm in all these different love and sex addict groups on Facebook, and I see how people are like really nervous and they're asking for help. I'm the first one that jumps in on those threads. I'm like, hey, here's my email address. Just call me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I don't pretend to have all the answers, of course, but sometimes you just need to talk to someone. And I think, just being aware that it is something real. And you're not making it up. You're not crazy. You're not a psycho. You're not a bunny boiler. You're not any of those things. You are who you are. And you're experiencing some stressful, awful, horrible feelings, which there are people out there who can relate to. And you're not alone in those feelings. And there is help out there. And you can ask for it. You can try it. Try a group like I did. Just, take that step. It's scary, yes, but honestly, once you get there and you feel included and you feel you have family there in the end. So I'd just say to people that, it can be scary to not know what on earth's going on, and I felt terrified myself, but there are other people exactly like you. You're not unique in that way. That's what I'd say.
Thank you. That is a beautiful message. And I want to put some links when I post this show on YouTube. So if you're watching on Facebook, fantastic. If you're watching on YouTube, there'll be some links below of how you can reach Katy if you want to reach her and see her work. We'll figure out how to get people connected to you that way. And pardon?
Thank you. That's lovely.
Oh, of course. You're welcome. And there are Facebook groups around recovery from sex and love addiction. There's more and more online resources all the time. Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous. You can look up those.
The books. Must get those books.
Yeah. And do you want to share some of your favorite books?
Oh God, now you're asking me. Give me a name and I can tell you if that's
okay.
the one.
How about Facing Love Addiction?
Yes, that's one.
Okay.
That one. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Because I read a few of them were a bit, and then a few of them really get you.
Really, pow.
Pia Melody. Yeah, Pia Melody above anyone else.
She's a classic. Well, if we can think of any more, we can post them as links and people can check them out
definitely.
As they learn more about what love addiction is and what recovery from it can look like. And thank you so much for your candor, your bravery, your kind heart of service. I'm just touched and inspired by what you're doing out there. And I know that in some ways you're probably just getting started. So I bet we're going to hear a lot more about what Katy did.
You never know.
That's right. Oh, Sparky's getting up. Okay. He knows that it's about time to close. Time for bed.
Well, thank you so much, Stacey. Like, I really appreciated the opportunity to talk to you, and I think you're wonderful as well. So admiration goes both ways.
Oh, you are so welcome. I am grateful and thank you. And oh, there's a nice your friend Leah said a nice thing. Thank you for providing a forum for Katy to be able to speak so honestly without judgment, and it's such kindness. Oh, well, you are so welcome, and it's a pleasure and an honor, and I hope we can connect again. I know there's so much more to do out there, and so we'll close for tonight and say thank you to everyone. Thank you to Katy. Best wishes. Yay! And thanks for tuning in to Sex Fiction in the News. And may you have a wonderful weekend. May you feel loved. May you feel cherished. And may you love and cherish others. I'm Stacey Sprout, signing off. Good night. Oh, you're getting lots of little hearts.